Welcome, guys. Great to see everyone. Happy Wednesday. Pete, Chris, how are you doing today?
Awesome, man. Great. Vancouver, BC, sunny summer, end of summer day. All is well. Getting excited about all these courses we kicking off next week.
Totally radical, Peter. What's going on?
Good. Well, we're excited to see you all here. Please let us know in the chat where you're joining us from today, and we'd also welcome your questions, comments throughout. And we hope to make this live and interactive as much as possible here. We have been, I guess, putting the cart before the horse. We should probably introduce ourselves, guys. What do you think? Formally, I'll ask Pete here first of the Media Copilot to lead that off.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Pete Paschal. I'm the founder and CEO, I guess, of the Media Copilot. It is a Substack. It's a newsletter, which I guess is kind of redundant there, as well as a podcast, but also a training academy for both people in the media, as well as folks in PR and communications. I've been doing that for a while now, since at least the beginning of 2024, ever since the first person emailed me after I'd launched my newsletter and said, hey, can you come and show my people this AI stuff? And I've been doing that ever since with a lot of different groups. It's gotten more formalized, obviously partnering with really smart guys like Peter and Chris here to sort of spread more AI knowledge, because the more I use it, the more anyone I think uses it, the more convinced you are that this is really transformative, being able to kind of have this layer of intelligence over all the things really that are out there is incredibly powerful. There are infinite number of ways to use it, and we just really want to pass on that knowledge to ensure you can upgrade your work and don't get left behind, as they say.
Right, absolutely. And so Pete brings his amazing editorial background, former tech editor at Mashable, at CoinDesk, many other amazing publications, also regular columnist in Fast Company, right? So Pete has his eye on the ball and some amazing, professional experience and background that he really adds. And we're really stoked here, Chris and I both, to partner with you in the Media Copilot.
Hey, Peter, you're always way better at selling me than me. I always forget to sort of talk about my journalism background.
Yeah, don't neglect.
Do a lot of that stuff. Yeah, thank you.
But Chris, why don't you intro yourself and maybe tell people a little bit about how you and I connected originally too. We're also journalists.
Sure. My name's Chris Krug. As I mentioned, I'm up here in Vancouver, BC, but I grew up in California. I'm American, and I've got a background in web and web journalism, citizen journalism, and kind of community-generated media. I've been involved with comms from a variety of perspectives. The last couple of years, I've been running these trainings with Peter and Pete for media pros, PR peeps, marketing execs, and comms folks in general. So we've been helping folks like break down their workflow, integrate new tools, build automations and agents that support their work. And I love doing this. I love showing people what's working for me, and I love digging into their particular problems and figuring out how we can brainstorm emergent technological solutions focused around AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, to round out the intros, is in visual journalism and media. I was a freelancer for many years based overseas in Asia and shot photo, video, and good old-fashioned tech stories as well for CNN, the New York Times, Bloomberg News, really anyone who would take a story from that corner of the world. And I've come back full circle to my roots here in PR and comms. Originally, before I went to grad school at Berkeley and started teaching there, I was working at Fleischman Hillard in PR and comms. And I've really enjoyed the last couple cohorts teaching with you guys and connecting with all of the students from, both agency and in-house backgrounds. I think we've had some really good reps. In the spring, we taught this 6-week course twice. And in a couple minutes here, we're going to give you guys a little bit of a sampler of some of our favorite use cases, some mini demos that are pretty representative of our teaching style and the type of content we like to cover in our course. But I'm curious, Chris and Pete, before we dive in, what are you guys most excited about for this next round?
Well,
Can I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
Honestly, I'm excited to talk more about agents this time around. Last couple of cohorts that we've had, agents were pretty nascent, particularly in the consumer space. Like there were a lot of talk about agents, and you could sort of do things like cloud computer use if you really knew what you were doing. But it was kind of like more theoretical than anything else. And now we've got things like Comet, which is the Perplexity browser. We've got ChatGPT Agent. And having used both of those a bit for the last month and a half or so, I think they've really only been around that long. But you're really unlocking like a whole nother sort of level of power by having this sort of collaborative AI, which I think we're all used to by now, collaborating with via chat. But now you can collaborate it with it via actions, right? You can tell it like to go off in the background and do stuff. And again, that opens up, I sort of mentioned the infinite possibilities before. I mean, that's like infinity times 2. It's like, oh, wow, now I can tell this thing with whatever, specific instructions to go to a web service, to take information from that specific web service and go to another web service in another tab and do this stuff and sort of watch it live.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start doing this, it becomes really addictive, I found.
Yeah.
So I've been playing with this for a long time. I've distilled as much as I can in terms of like figuring out what the best sort of use cases are here and some takeaways and how to apply that to specific journalistic and PR use cases and databases, because that's key. Because when you have these sort of databases out there that are either your personal ones or sort of public ones, and having the agent be able to navigate those, that's such a time saver. So I'm really excited to sort of pass those on in this these new cohorts this fall, because I think this is just a real, like, this word is overused, I know, but it is a game changer. Like, it's definitely been a game changer for me. I've got agents in the background right now doing things.
I'm so curious about that, Pete. You were one of the early adopters of that Perplexity Comet agentic browser, and I haven't heard much from you. When we were leading that AMD training yesterday, you mentioned Perplexity, and I wanted to jump out and ask. So, like, you mind just giving me a little blurb on the Comet browser?
Yeah, sure. So the great thing about the Comet browser, like, it has a built-in agent, and not only does that give you access to Perplexity, but it gives Perplexity access to you and what you are doing on the web browser. Now, that might sound a little creepy, and it probably is. Just like everything in AI, that's a lot of intelligence and information you're giving them. I'm kind of putting that aside now, though. We do talk about that in the course, how to think about that, how to manage that with the team. But putting that aside for the moment, once it has that kind of power and context over what you're doing, it can bring sort of the what AI is really good at to supplement what you're doing, so that you don't waste a lot of time doing things. Really basic example. This is more a journalistic use case, but this is very applicable to PR as well. There are a lot of public databases that have tons and tons of good information. You probably need, your own login and stuff, but it's got good information. The UI is arcane. It was designed in the 90s or the early 2000s, and maybe there have been some upgrades, but it's basically this really archaic thing that, unless you're in it every day, you just don't know how to get the information you want.
Right.
Well, who has time to figure that out? An AI agent. You literally just have to open it with you're logged in and just say, hey, this is what this is for. Find this data for me, or however many times this instance happens in this data, etc. And it can go off and do that. And I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, it's doing it well.
Yeah.
And gets the right things and saves me the hour it would take to just figure out the system of what I'm looking at. So that's like a really basic one on agents. And there's lots more, and some of them are more general with regard to some online shopping is kind of an obvious one, but that, obviously we're not here to talk about that. But it's more about like your personal databases. So once you've combined, like, you can do connectors in Perplexity with, say, your Google Drive. So it can take your information and then go and sort of interact with online information to produce something new right there in the browser. Again, I will say this. There's sort of a interestingly, I'm not sure how narrow it is, but it is a narrow set of use cases for a browser agent, because it doesn't have quite the same built-in context. Also, the prompting is sort of by its nature a little less structured, because it's kind of more meant for like quicker things you're doing in the middle of work, But with taking those things into account, there's still a lot of sort of guidance and specific use cases within these professions that you can kind of target it on. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. I want to throw to the chat for a quick sec. First, I just want to say hello to everyone. Desiree and Leslie, thanks for popping in. Eldad, nice to see you again. We saw you yesterday. Wendy, get to your question here in one quick sec. Leslie, your question about agents, Pete spoke to it a little bit, but I kind of wanted to give my own take on it as well, because I obviously get this question a ton, you know, like what's an assistant, what's a knowledge base, what's an automation, what's an agent, how do those things all relate to one another? And my answer is kind of similar to Eldad's, but I think his is sort of missing something. So I think it's useful to start with like assistants first. An assistant is just like a purpose-built AI, something you're using to do a specific task or objective. And it's got two parts. It's got like a custom system prompt where you kind of give it a role or assignment, like you're a marketing exec or something like that. And then a knowledge base, some documents that you give it that are different than what's available on the main training data that help give it its specific purpose. And there's a bunch of ways to make assistants. Custom GPTs are an easy one. We're going to make a 2-minute one on this chat here today. But yeah, that's assistants. And then once you start tying assistants together or steps together, you get automations. And that's kind of what Eldad mentioned there, a fancy way of automating tasks in a series. But the part that I think that kind of misses is what Pete was talking about, the figuring it out part. Automations have a beginning, middle, and end, and they kind of know where they're going. There might be some decision points, yes, no, or forks in the road, but these agents can really, you don't know where they're going to end up. Or like Pete said, I just log it into this tool and I say, go figure out where to find this data I need. And it's making a bunch of decisions about how to find that data and report it back. So that's kind of my take on what an agent is versus an automation versus an assistant.
Yeah, I think the key word is autonomy, right? Agentic systems are able to take your human-led goal, and instead of having you to basically provide a prompt of some sort each time, you know, it can make that judgment and decisions and assign itself tasks and go ahead and take that initiative, right? Which is the next layer. And we do have some demos. I know there's a comment about, hey, can you give us some specific examples of what this sort of agentic behavior really looks like? Yes, we have that prepped and we'll be getting into it soon. Leslie has a great question about what's a connector. You know, a connector, we can also show and demo it. And, you know, there's a lot of different ways to essentially link your different software, right? And this is something we go over in the class too, but we have a lot of different abilities now to use these large language models, whether it's a, you know, GPT 4 or 5 model, or something like that, to, you know, your database could be in Notion, could be in Google Drive, or to your CMS or your CRM, right? And so having the ability to, you know, kick things off in one location, send it to an AI assistant for one step or an agent to do maybe multiple ones, and then send it somewhere else useful through these connectors are typically APIs, right? Or MCPs. These are protocols for information exchange between different software. And so we won't get too technical here today at all. And it really doesn't require that level of technical knowledge to understand just how powerful they can be and how to set them up. So, hey, Isaac, great to see you. Yeah, former student here in the chat, which is awesome. But Chris, maybe you want to kick off the demos and just show us a basic sort of assistant and how you go about that.
Yeah, the real point here is that by providing basic customizations to your chat GPT, you're going to get significantly better outputs. And that's what I'm going to show you here right now. So let me start by finding the little share button here. There we go. It's incoming, sir. And we'll start in ChatGPT if you want to follow along. If you go to your ChatGPT, mine's just in dark mode, and you kind of go down here to the very bottom where your settings are. This is going to be the first place we're going to have a look, and we're going to take a look at this customized ChatGPT. So here you can see that I have given a little bit of info about myself, my name, my role, how I want it to talk, to be succinct, wise, badass, no hype, no cliche. And then here's a whole bunch of stuff that I've told it about me, how what I wanted to know so that it customizes answers. And I have this currently turned off, but just for this demo, I usually leave it on all the time. So that's one basic way to customize your ChatGPT. And you're going to find, if you haven't done that already and you do it and start using it, your outputs are going to change significantly. Now, let's go back to the settings screen here for a quick sec. And let's go down here to personalization. You can see my custom instructions are turned off currently. And there's two other ways to customize your ChatGPT that I think you probably should turn on. And like I said, mine's always on, except for right now for this demo, and you'll see why in a minute. This first one is memories. So this is like when you're prompting and talking to ChatGPT. If you say something that it deems as significant about yourself, a message might pop up that says save to memory. And you can see what's saved to memory if you click on this right here. And hopefully there's nothing embarrassing hiding in here. Oh, we got to turn it on for a quick sec. Okay, it's on. Now we're looking at my memories. So Chris Krug and Loki co-founded the Mind, AI, and Consciousness subgroup. I'm working on a hackathon. I'm working on a position paper about AI and education. So these are all things that it's gleaned from conversations with me that are now referenced as it tries to, sort out the future things I've asked of it. And I recommend you gardening your memories. So as you can see, you can go in here and delete different memories and stuff. They build up over time. Some of them are more relevant and useful than others. And there is a limit to how many memories are able to be stored. So I just like to try to pare it down to the most foundational things about me from time to time. And then the one below, it's kind of an interesting one too. So it says record mode, reference record history. So this is, I voice prompt my ChatGPT a lot, either using the voice mode or just sending it audio files of myself. I find it's a great way to interact with these tools. And apparently ChatGPT records and saves all of those. And you can turn them on here. And, as much as I've used my voice with ChatGPT, that's a significant amount of context. But the reason I don't like this one as much is because you can't see what's in there and you can't garden it or manage it in any way. So who knows what I've said to this thing along the way or what it's remembered or found significant. So anyway, those are the first basic customization features of ChatGPT. Now, I want to do a little 2-minute assistant, a custom assistant. And I think this is important because it's foundational to other types of assistants and it's progressive. You can iterate and build on top of it. So let's start here. You can see I've got a whole bunch of, these are all my custom GPTs right here along the side. There's this video upgrader one I happen to just click on. I just drop a YouTube transcript in it. It delivers me back a full YouTube asset pack with titles, descriptions, SEO keywords, pinned comments, social shares, all the stuff that I need when I publish a new YouTube video. But let's go here, GPTs. This is where all the custom GPTs live. I encourage you to check this page out. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. I really like the Canva GPT, but you'll find all sorts of writing tools and productivity tools and stuff. Let's go right here, create GPT. We're gonna make what I'm calling just like a 2-minute assistant. We're going to give it a 1-line system prompt. We're going to give it 1 file knowledge base, and we're going to click create and test it. So I'm going to say Chris's assistant. If you're following along, I encourage you to do the same thing. Chris's new assistant. You are my office helper and smart thinking business coach. I don't know, something very simple, right? First thing that comes to mind. Now, let's, in another tab, just go to our LinkedIn's. This is my LinkedIn profile. You get to it by going to LinkedIn and clicking on your face. Once you're on your face, you'll see this gray button right here that says resources. And if you click that and click save to PDF, it'll download your whole LinkedIn profile as a PDF. So let's go back to our ChatGPT, custom GPT we're making. And let's go right here under upload files. And I just got to grab the file I downloaded there. Here it is, profile.pdf. I've now attached my LinkedIn. It's got a 1-line assistant, and I'm going to hit create. Now, I'm going to show you a test, a proof point of what I mean here. I kicked off this whole section by saying context is king. If you give it a little info about yourself, you'll be amazed at the results that come out of it. So here I'm in blank, regular old dumb ChatGPT. I've got my custom instructions turned off and my memories turned off. I'm just going to say, write me a cover letter for a dream job at Anthropic. And I'm going to let it do its thing there for a second. In a moment, I'm going to come over to the new little assistant that I built right here, Chris's assistant, and I'm going to ask it the same question in a second, but I'm also going to turn on those custom instructions and stuff that I showed you first. So it's thinking about what it's going to say, and I could probably turn on my custom instructions again now, but I don't want to mess this demo up. I actually am also going to switch it to instant mode for the sake of our demo here, and ask it the same thing again.
So I also want to invite people to ask questions and comments, you know, regardless of what level you think you're at. Probably others have the same exact questions or, you know, similar experiences, and we're all here to learn together, and hopefully we can, you know, provide some insights.
Check it out. As you see here in the second paragraph, it's like, in my career, I have focused on insert your relevant experience here. So this thing doesn't know anything about me, and this is just standard vanilla ChatGPT pablum bullshit, right? So now we jump over here, and let me go back and turn on those things that I told you about. Personalization on, custom instructions on. And let's just go ahead and turn on the mystery one too. And let me put it on instant so we don't stare at it thinking for 5 minutes, and say exact same prompt, write me a cover letter for my dream job. So here's the old one. It's got no personal info. It's got, you know, general fill in the blank type stuff. This one's like, yo, I'm me, Chris. I'm currently working as the executive director of BCAI in the upgrade. Here's specifically my experience and things that make me a good fit for these jobs. Talks about constitutional AI, ethical AI. I mean, this is a great letter. I could send it off and see what happens, you know? And it's because of all the context I've given it. I've given it my LinkedIn. I've given it the custom instructions and all the memories that I've shared with it in the past. So that's
Can I interject for 1 second and give
a
quick thing? So I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but this is a thing I've sort of started to notice. So Chris, go ahead and pull up your letter one last time.
Yes,
if
sir.
you look at the bottom of the letter, and it's like it signs your name, I find that, like, it's, maybe this is just me, but it's like a telltale indication that it's AI is that there's no extra line break between the sort of send off and the name. So it's like, warm regards, your name. I just feel like a lot of people, I do, tend to put a line break between those, but AI never does for some reason. So it's like, if I get an email that's signed that way,
yeah,
it turns on a little bit of my AI spidey sense. I don't know about you guys.
I think that might be because you studied typing and not keyboarding in high school or something.
That could be it.
I think that line break was where we used to put our signatures when we were typing out different types of letters in typing class. But I think that the digital age has eliminated that one, maybe.
That might have just been a style thing of mine that I found. I've just been adding that line break every time AI gives me something. So maybe it could be just me, but it's definitely a thing for AI that it never does.
Right. Well, I know we have, some live folks joining us here. What are you using in terms of tools for AI that you're experimenting with these days? It's okay if ChatGPT is there, right? It's kind of the Swiss Army knife, and can do an awful lot with just ChatGPT. We take kind of a AI tool agnostic and model agnostic approach to our courses and kind of teaching and philosophy, because there's a lot of overlap, right? And there's a lot of differentiation also that are happening amongst all these different products, right? So I think that, there's some pros and cons to using them for different types of use cases or projects. But Pete, I know you had a bit of a more specialized demo that was also on ChatGPT that you were interested in sharing, right?
Yeah, totally. So that was a great run through of the, getting to know an assistant and, crossing that bridge into sort of just having AI know more about you. And I've got one that I think is very useful, particularly in PR use cases. And I think it's very demonstrative of the power of doing something in a custom GPT. So I'm just going to share that now. But before I go into it, well, let me actually just share my screen and then I can sort of give some context. And let's see, share screen. This is, yeah. Da, da, da. So I'll find a window. And I get to choose a window. Here it is. You seen my window? Do
Not yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
you have it now?
Yep.
Sweet. Oh, how did that get there? Oh, that's our
gotcha.
course. I'm sorry, guys. Let me go to
No, all good. I had to press a
different
button
tab.
here.
So here's my chat GPT. You can see I've got 5 going on. This is just general chat. But we're talking about custom GPTs. So expanding this out, you can see a bunch that I have, etc. Don't judge me. I've got my projects here too. But I think sort of a fundamental thing when people sort of encounter like I want to do this sort of repeated thing with chat GPT, like should I do a custom GPT or should I do a project? And it's a good question. And there is like a lot of crossover between these two things. They can perform similar functions. But what I'm going to show now is a custom GPT. And that's because I think custom GPTs are really good when you want different behavior from a regular chat, not just sort of the usual back and forth. It's not like projects can't do that, but I think a custom GPT is a little more tailored to the idea of very specific prompting or system prompting, so to speak. So like the thing that is actually going to drive every interaction and making that different from your regular chat experience. Projects are really good at like looping in a bunch of chats into a single project and sharing kind of the same info across chats, if you know what I mean. So it's more about like the info you're doing versus the behavior you want, if that makes sense. That's just sort of some broad guidelines on when to do a chat GPT, a custom GPT versus a project. So I'm going to go in here. You can see this is the GPTs page. And I'm just going to create one from scratch here. So what we're going to do is create kind of a media trainer. So I'll just put like media trainer. And then we can do that. And then I'm going to show some instructions here that I've actually sort of built in advance. So the whole idea here is basically it's going to simulate a journalist and we can sort of run people through it to give interviews. So this is really different behavior than a regular chat, right? I wanted to actually simulate like a conversation, maybe even a tough conversation with a journalist. And so I've got sort of the fields here pre-filled out. So you can see here, I've got some instructions. So I developed these in actually a different GPT. This is actually part of the course that we're going to show on sort of how to create good instructions for a custom GPT so that it's really comprehensive like this and not just, a single line or a single paragraph or something you've just dashed off. Not that that wouldn't work in some cases, but it is obviously good to be thoughtful, particularly when you want to have some relatively complex interactions. Like you can see here, I don't know if you can see this, I should probably zoom a bit, but you can see there's going to be some interactions where I give it a kind of a code word called begin. There's going to be some back and forth and there's like some structure to that. And then when I'm done that interaction, I'm going to say finished, and then it's going to do some stuff once I've done the interview. So I'm going to put all this in here, and I can demo it too. And I'm going to give it some knowledge. So I'm going to upload some files. And the key thing I'm going to give it is some guidance on how to judge the interview. So I've got a couple of things in here for media training. So basically, this is honestly just some stuff I've downloaded on the internet of like how to judge a good interview or a bad interview and give basically a score. So I'm throwing that in there. You can recommend models. I'll just leave this. This is something we give a little more guidance on in the course. There's obviously a bunch of different models you can use. I'm just going to leave that as whatever the person wants. And so I'm just gonna create this. I'm just gonna go for it. And it'll be something I can share. That's one of the other powerful things about custom GPTs is you can share them via link. or you can even put them in the store if it's one you want it discoverable. But if it's just something you want to share with a few people or your team, just have it something that is a link that anyone can access. So we're going to look here, and here's my media trainer GPT. Good times. I'm actually viewing it already. Great. And we're going to simulate something. So I've got a little a quick demo here, and it's about a specific product. So I used to cover tech. I still cover tech because I cover AI a lot, but I covered a lot of consumer tech, and there's a lot of product releases, obviously, and that's a thing a lot of PR folks track. And so I have this camera that was released. It's called the Sync Genie S. It's actually a real camera. It came out a couple of years ago. I like using this in demos because it's actually an AI-powered camera, so it's very apt. And I have here, there's been some kind of security breach involving this camera. And I want to basically have an interview about it. I want this thing to interview me about it, and I'll pretend I'm kind of the CEO. So I'll just drop one of these conversation starters, and I'm just gonna toss it in there. It's going to ask me some questions. Here are the elements. What do you want? What do you want the journalist style to be? So this is all obviously based on the instructions I gave it. So general media trial, specific journalist. I'm going to say general. I'm going to say to CEO of Sync. It's actually, I don't know if that's like a company name, but let's call it Sync Labs. And 3 is the attached security breach. Now I've got a little mock news story in this. There was no security breach, by the way. This is just something I made up for this camera. The camera's real, the news story isn't. And I want this person to be highly confrontational. This is going to be a tough interview. And I'm going to add this this fake news story I have. So see here, it's like I could show it to you, but it's basically the Sync camera was hacked, and oh no, stuff leaked out on the internet, blah, blah, blah. It's a disaster. This didn't happen, again, to emphasize. The Sync camera's totally fine, everything's good. I honestly don't even know if it's still being made. So we're going to do this, and we're going to go, and then once we lock those in, and it's probably going to ask just to confirm, is this all good, or should we begin? And it's gonna, when you're ready, type begin. And I'm like, all righty, hit me. And here it goes. And I'm gonna zoom a bit so you guys can read the answers a little better. All right, let's get right into it. Your flagship, the world's so-called first GPT-enabled smart home camera, was just exposed to a viral hack. Oh no, how do I explain your customers that Sync Labs and inverters? So I've got a couple of answers here ready. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this is something I've sort of just prepped, and I'm just going to use this as a transitional answer. There's going to be more fun stuff in a second. So you can see here, privacy, etc. Cool. Sorry, I had to do something with my screen there. Can everyone still see? Hello? Everyone still see? Yeah, good. Journalist interrupting. To be clear, this wasn't some exotic nation-state cyber attack. Research showed it was possible to hijack cameras, so why isn't this caught before? And I'm going to see, I hope this works, because I'm not sure about the StreamYard hookup, but I'm going to see if I can turn this to a verbal interaction. Oh, no, sorry, that's the transcription. One sec. There we go. Yeah, so like I said, we are really concerned about our user privacy. We are reviewing the technical mishap, and we are looking to see if there is anything more to change in our terms of service. And we are express our deepest sympathies with anyone who's information was leaked out, but it's we're working hard to rectify the problem and see that it never happens again.
It's listening, but I don't think it's hearing.
Oh, you guys can't hear that? Yeah, so that you guys can't hear it, but it was speaking to me, and I think because of the StreamYard hookup, it didn't quite share it. I think it's not like Zoom where I could just share my sound easily.
I love interacting with the bots with my voice, though. I find it's one of the best way to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was trying to demonstrate it's a much more natural interaction when you can do it by voice. As you could sort of see, I was like not super great in my responses, and certainly nowhere near as polished as the thing I had generated and got ready for. So this is honestly, like, again, you see the power of the GPT. This is something you can train. You can be even more specific about the kinds of journalists or even the specific journalists you want it to simulate. You can make it really specific to a campaign. And then with the sharing ability of the GPT, you can share that with your team and anyone you want to train. So if you have limited time and a lot of training to do or a lot of people to train, this is a great way to use AI to sort of amplify your workforce to be able to do that. And honestly, like, it's always your time's valuable to your company or your firm or your clients. You've got a lot of different things to do. If you can offload some of this media training to the AI to handle, and again, not all of it, but like to supplement what you're already doing, you're just going to be able to do so much more for that client or your team internally by leveraging AI in these really sort of specific use cases that do tend to be time intensive. I've done a lot of media training on both sides of this, being trained and trained folks on various jobs, and it takes time, and it's great. I'm very grateful to all the PR people who helped me, and I hope the people gain stuff from people I've trained. But it's usually like you're committing the morning, right? So it's kind of like if you can do some of this and just kind of review and do some tips for at least some cases, it's a really powerful time saver.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious. Hey, glad you think it's neat, Chiku. I'm curious what tools you're using in the comments if you're watching here. Have you played with voice chat or created, you know, yeah, an assistant like Pete has for a specific use case or project you're working on? I love that we've had some comments about Google Notebook LM, which is one of our favorite tools that we certainly go over and teach, right? You could use it for a similar purpose, right? Where you have these audio overview capabilities there. That's an amazing tool if you haven't checked it out yet. I think Timothy was mentioning he loves it for that use case as well. So in some ways, there's multiple tools to do some of the same things, right? And so there's increasing overlap, and I think it's hard to parse through what is available now in each of these because they're moving so fast. So every time we teach the course, we reinvent it. We really do. We have completely new, updated curriculum, lesson plans, materials, even in between class sessions, right? It's hard to explain to students sometimes when they ask for a curriculum. But if something drops that's major, that changes, the best in class sort of use case and our preferred methodology, we pivot, in between sessions and have a brand new demo and a brand new everything. And that's happened multiple times where we've realized, oh my God, overnight, our entire lesson plan is out of date, right? And so this is classic. But I have another demo prep for a slightly different use case. But let me get to Wendy's question first as well. And I think this was asked repeatedly too. Very important to think about user privacy, confidential information, security. So I'm curious what tool you're using, Wendy. Let us know. Regardless, I think your instinct to really be careful and overly cautious in that case, especially if it's confidential, sensitive information, is absolutely right. And there's some settings, for example, in ChatGPT to turn off, right? It's a toggle. If you go into your settings to turn off the ability to have your chat sessions be used to train the next models, right? By ChatGPT, for example. If you're on an enterprise plan as well, that's typically more secure, regardless of which of the tools you're using. But there's always so ChatGPT and cloud. There's always a possibility if you're running it in the cloud somewhere that it might be compromised. And so the future and the way that things are moving pretty fast is on device, right? Or on premise, right? A local network. So for example, this information, if you give it to an AI model, would stay on your device, right? You could run that LLM, whether it's a ChatGPT model or an Anthropic Claude model, on your personal computer, right? And so there'd be no data sent to the cloud for processing. That would be done on your computer, on your phone, on your tablet. This is already possible today. It's a little technical right now, and it's getting better really quickly though. And this is something that we've consulted with companies for a lot of different projects on, but there are ways to do it if you want.
I have a much simpler measuring stick myself, Wendy. I'm like, if you'd feel comfortable sticking it on a Google Drive and letting it live in a Google Drive, then you can feel comfortable sticking it into ChatGPT without it leaking out there into the world. And again, Peter said that you can turn off the setting of training data. And if you pay more for enterprise, you can guarantee that they treat your data more privately. But in general, I think if you would trust, a Google Drive with it or sending it over a Gmail, you can stick it into ChatGPT without it, squeaking out somewhere.
Yeah. And I think, it depends on your, context too, organizationally, your company's privacy and security policy, the contracts with any of your clients or customers, right? There's a lot of factors at play here. Yes, in general, I think Chris is right for probably 97% of the use cases, right? But in some areas, you're right, you might want to be extra cautious, right? You're working with very sensitive, I guess, health data or, confidential national security info, right? Whatever.
In which case you're going to be in a pretty locked down paradigm anyway, where you're probably VPNing into a secure network or something like that. And, you're going to already know to not attach those to Gmails and not stick them on Google Drives and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay, guys, I figured out the audio thing if you want to.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Why don't you share again? Yeah, let's show that. I would love to see or hear the voice interaction, and then I have another demo. But as you're getting
turns out the StreamYard has some robust help.
That's good. That's good.
Some AI power in that. So let me see. I'm going to share the tab audio this time.
Great. I think Chiku's question is amazing, and I think this is one that we probably all have different takes on. We're all dabblers, right? We experiment across all these tools. We probably pay thousands of dollars collectively per month for all of these different AI services, especially when we get into the multimodal stuff, right? So things like image or video gen, right? There's some that are free. I would encourage you to, know one well, get familiar with, being able to use it effectively. And I think it's more important to probably have some of the foundational knowledge about prompting best practices. Prompting still matters, right? Really matters. Creating, basic assistants, regardless of whether they're custom GPTs from ChatGPT, gems from Gemini, Claude projects, Perplexity, spaces, whatever they are, they all work very similarly, right? And so I would encourage you to, really focus on one that is maybe provided to you by an employer or that's cost effective for you, and know that your knowledge will be transferable across these other products, right?
I would pay for ChatGPT because it's 80% of the users are on it and it's getting the best features and the coolest stuff all the time. And then I would dabble with as much as you can. And then my favorite thing to do is to play them off each other. So I'll get GPT to write a prompt, I'll run it through Claude, I'll take the Claude thing back to GPT and have it critique the answer and give me a better one. And so I think it's definitely useful to have accounts on lots of them, but probably standardize around one and probably make that open AI.
Cool. So I'm gonna just see if I can pick up where we left off and see what we can do here. Yeah, we positively did not rush this project to market. It was just kind of an unfortunate, convergence of various things, a zero-day vulnerability, and some inadequate security in the camera. And so now that we've fixed that issue, we're going to make sure, obviously future products don't have that problem, and we're obviously giving all of our customers the ability to shore up their security. And we're reviewing all internal processes to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Journalist pressing harder. So you're saying it's just an unfortunate convergence of issues, yet parents and families are supposed to trust that you've got it all handled now? Look, the public is worried because this wasn't just a tiny glitch. It was a fundamental security flaw in a camera that's literally marketed to watch over homes. And frankly, it sounds like you're giving a lot of corporate speak without real accountability. Isn't it true that you simply didn't invest enough in security from the start? And what do you say to the families who feel like your apology is just a PR move after the fact?
Well, I don't like your line of questioning, and I think you've got some erroneous information, and I'm ending this interview now. Goodbye.
Journalist, staying in character for a moment. Walking out of the interview doesn't exactly reassure anyone, but we'll leave it there. All right.
Cool. I wonder how it's going to grade my performance. I assume you guys all heard that, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah. And definitely some attitude there, as you asked, right? Adversarial interview here. Interesting.
Doubling down, extended investment. So it's giving me wow, it's actually giving me a pretty good score on clarity, consistency, confidence, blah, blah, blah. Check more control. Bridging ability, it's scoring me pretty high.
And this is where
Emotional control. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, and its sycophancy is showing itself here. It wants to tell you did a good job. It's not giving you out too harsh.
7 out of 10. Okay, wait a second. I think it may not have processed that final answer I gave if you're looking at these scores, but you can look at it up here. It didn't quite get it. So I think I might have exited out of the simulation before it could process that absolutely horrific final answer I gave. I was trying to get it to score me lowly, as you could probably tell. But you guys heard the verbal interaction, right? And so like that's the whole point, which is that like you get this very natural back and forth, which is essential to handling any kind of high pressure media situation.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Thanks for revisiting that. Glad that we got the audio working. Other questions or comments at this point, let us know. I'm going to do a quick demo, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the course and how we've updated it and what things we're really stoked about for the next one starting next week. So I remember when I was first starting in PR and comms, one of my jobs as an intern was to do influencer research, and I would spend all day trying to get a good list of 40 to 50 target influencers for a given campaign. And this is something that's obviously still super relevant, if not more than ever today. And I have here, I'm going to put it on screen in a sec. Let me know if you can see this, guys. But we have now the ability to quickly do what used to take 8 hours in about 8 minutes or less, right? And so here's a prompt that I put together. It is, basic, perplexity deep research campaign. This is something that you could use in other deep research tools, right? This is kind of a class or of features that's across a lot of different types of products now. So you could do the same query in ChatGPT using their deep research mode. You could use it in Gemini's deep research, right? And so on and so forth. Doesn't really matter where you do it, but in this case, we have, this scenario where you're representing Food and Wine Magazine for their first live event in New York City and Brooklyn, right? And so instead of July, let's say December. There we go. Make it more timely and realistic. You're an expert influencer researcher and marketing strategist, right? So we build sort of the persona of, who the AI should act as, right? We also want to make sure that we have some good objectives here. Help me build a table formatted list of 30 influencers who cover food and wine from upstate New York and Connecticut, right? And I want to ensure alignment with my client's brand, blah, blah, blah. And so we have the toggle switch to research mode here, where it's going to be approaching and overlapping some of this agentic behavior. It's going to basically give itself kind of the task. I'm going to start it. It might take a couple minutes here. You'll see that on the screen, it's going to show us the steps it's doing and the sources that it's actually referring to in real time here, and doing multiple searches, and in some cases refining them, right? Making some evaluations and assigning itself subtasks in order to do this. This is the beginning of sort of the agentic universe. And this was a tool that really launched first of the deep research ones, and then quickly ChatGPT and Gemini and others rolled them out. In many ways, it's a similar experience across all of these products now, but it's going down into a lot of individual sources here, from podcasts to websites to social handles to kind of, lists of best, micro food influencers, regional resources. And it's still going here, right? It may take a couple more minutes, but now it's digging into Instagram. So we have here, an example of a live query. And if you use ChatGPTs or Geminis, it could take a little longer, right? In some cases, these used to take up to an hour. They're, I think, for, resource efficiency, really paring it down a little bit, and they kind of streamlined it, especially here in Perplexity, I've noticed. But there are other tools like Monas, for example, which is like kind of an extreme agentic assistant like this, where it will run for 24 hours, right? Or more, sometimes 48, on, a particularly complex task in the background, right? And so there's a whole universe of agentic here. And you'll see that it's actually using Python now to build this database, right? After it's finished the actual research. And we have the CSV that it's compiling here, which is nice. I asked for a table format. And it's still going. It's going back into search mode now and looking at the last part of my prompt, which was, hey, screen out anyone who's had some recent controversies. I don't want, my client being exposed to any of, for example, whatever scandals might have popped up in influencer land before people come to their event, right? And so it's wrapped up its query now. It's gone through 79 sources here. We can click on those. Actually, it's going up.
It is really fun to watch it thinking, actually.
It is. You can, look at the steps and see specifically what the different steps that it assigned itself were.
I feel like I've learned a lot about its personality by watching its reasoning steps.
Right. And so we can see here that it's, taken this train of thought. If we go to our assets here, this is the actual database, and it looks tiny here in the preview mode. I can download it or copy it and put it into Google Sheets. Let me go back over into what the view is here, but we see that it's found, and it's given us a bit of a high level overview of these different geographic breakdowns and content focused, right? Food versus wine versus mixed. It's key recommendations. It's got some summaries here. But if we look at this, it should be able to open up, at least a decent preview. And so we have here the handles, but you know what? We also have emails. That's interesting. That's great. Wow. The contact info, it was able to pull for some of them, but man, I can't click on it. Well, that's no good. I want hyperlinks. So I'm going to go, and this is part of the iteration, right? Hyperlink the IG handles to the real IG profiles and add in hyperlinks for the blog or websites as well. And so I'm going to have it in the same thread, continue to work on this and make it even more accessible and easy to use. So, and we can see and double check, are these real? We obviously always want to keep in that human layer of review. Any questions, comments from the audience that I'm not seeing? I'm looking at my tab. So Chris and Pete, are there any comments that you guys have?
I think you're doing great, man. We got about 5 minutes left here in this hour, and I'd love to get the codes and links in people's hands.
That sounds great. Yeah. So if any of these use cases or tools or, frameworks that we're throwing out here are piquing your curiosity, we encourage you to check out our course, which starts next week. We have, already, a great group of cohort that has been assembled from, all corners of the US, Canada, actually internationally, which is awesome. And we've had, 2 of these amazing cohorts that have run already, where every single class, we pack 90 minutes full of awesome, real customized, tailored use cases for PR and comms, right? And let me go over, I'll stop sharing this for a minute. We'll come back to it, but I'm going to pull up our website, and you can see the QR code in the upper right-hand corner and go to our landing page there. But we have a 30% discount also that I'm going to put on screen here in a minute if you are curious. So
just for people who tuned into this LinkedIn Live, you won't find it anywhere else.
That's right. Yeah. So this is exclusive to those who tuned in here. And we have our landing page as well.
I think two of the things that are the most unique about this course and they're the most powerful is one, it's capstone based. So we ask everyone to choose a project near the beginning that relates to their work. And we do all of our training and demos, point you in the direction of these projects and stuff. And in addition to that, we do one-on-one coaching. So you get 2 half-hour one-on-one coaching sessions with us over the course of the 6 weeks. And those are a great chance to follow up on what we've been talking about in the labs, or to break those things down further, or to ask specific questions about your kind of use case or tech stack, stuff like that. So it's very much, it has the flavor of consulting. It's pretty high value, I would say. People get a lot of impact out of it. So yeah, the 6 weeks of online courses, doing a capstone project, and coaching.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Pete, do you have anything to add in that regard? I'm screen sharing right now our landing page. You can look and see what each module covers. Again, we update these in real time during the course. We keep to the topics, of course, and the use cases stay the
Peter,
same.
you might want to hit that screen share button again.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I'm not screen sharing.
I just want to make sure, yeah, folks, as we're talking about the course.
Imagine a landing page. Use yes. Here we go. So,
yeah, it's every week, and for those, we know everyone is super pressed for time, so we allot 90 minutes, but if you could only spare an hour, that's where most of the instruction is going to happen, and there's a lot of stuff on the back end in terms of workshopping and Q&A. So even if you can only stay an hour for each course, each week's class, that's totally fine, and they're all recorded, and you'll get the recordings anyway.
Yeah, and we go into much greater depth in all of the things that we just showed today as well, including, for example, if you wanted to turn this influencer research into an automation that drafted those customized emails out ready to send to those influencers, right, or DMs on Instagram, or even have them pop up there. Guess what? We can help you create something like that as well as part of your final capstone project. And these are great ways to get some more familiarity and understanding into how to go and build these with confidence, regardless of what tool comes out next. So
have we shared the code yet? We have to do that.
It's on the screen right now. Yeah. So it's in the upper right-hand corner. I'll also share just a couple testimonials, that reflect some of what students have gotten out of the course in the past. And so we have, folks of all different levels who have done some really, awesome, here we go. Let me just clear that away. Great. Who've come from senior positions in different agencies, right, as well as those kind of right out of school. We have a great mixture of them, and people come from different industry focuses and niches, but everyone who comes in leaves with a foundation as well as real tangible takeaways in terms of tools to immediately help their team right away. So we've had some great folks come through. Awesome. Any other questions? We're going to leave all of the links here into the chat as well. If you're curious to join us, it's helped a lot of people get over the hump of AI overwhelm and potentially, getting over this common fear of the unknown, right? Which is, I think, really ubiquitous right now. Great. And if you're curious, we also do custom trainings. So we can also train your team if you'd like to do that in your own workplace and organization. We've done that for many different organizations. We have some great partners to help with that as well.
Cool.
All right,
well, thanks a lot for joining us here today. Catch up with us on LinkedIn. If you got any questions, let us know. Love to see everyone out in the course. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Chris.
Awesome,
see you on the
Hope to see you there.
Over and out.